take a look at my Notion. Hey, it's Izzy and what's been busy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I really wanted to showcase me learning all of my languages because I have picked up 3 languages since being homeless. The first language I picked up was Chinese, then Italian, and somehow Japanese got included into this list. Today we are going to be learning languages. I'm going to show you some of my resources and specifically free resources because of course being homeless you don't have a whole lot of money to really splurge on hobbies, and it can even seem like, you know, once finances kind of get out of order that you can't learn your hobbies or you can't invest in them the same way, when I believe you can totally learn anything and everything once you have the internet. And I do have some textbooks, but it actually took quite a bit of time to even acquire a single textbook because I was using the internet. I was finding resources online and then learning everything I needed from websites, from podcasts, from YouTube videos, and that's really the bulk of my learning. So I'm gonna take you and show you all my routine. We're gonna first hop straight into Notion so I can show you all what I planned for today. Without further ado, let's get into this video. If we take a look at my Notion, I have a language hub. I personally love using Notion specifically for my languages because I get to have links and things that you can only store in the digital space, which I love. So Notion is definitely my go-to when it comes to my languages. So welcome to my language hub. Up here I have things I can just easily click on. So I have my 2024 goals, my resources, language tasks, and some challenges that I have. I can easily click on one of these if I want to, if I have things that I just want to store. And you can see with Chinese I have a lot of things stored, but it does showcase my level. So I have my learning status, and then I have the date in which I started the language. Now what makes this so, I guess, maybe interesting or sometimes frustrating when you're learning multiple languages is you can clearly see that with Chinese and Italian I learned them within the same year, you know, 2023, but I have gotten different results from learning Italian last year. I don't know, something about Italian, it just has been a little bit of a journey for me, and I am very comfortable with like Chinese. I love the language and I don't really have a whole lot of issues with it, but at the same time I was consistently studying it in a consistent spot. I was able to devote more time to it versus Italian. It did kind of get the bad end of the stick, unfortunately, which is the sad part when you start learning different languages. You can't give them all the same amount of time or make yourself have the exact same result per language. 我说话的时候我有束缚的感觉，我知道我还想提高我的中文水平，但是我很满意，我觉得我的水平还不错。Ma imparlo l'italiano per divertimento, mi piace molto. Io capisco un po' l'italiano, un po'. Io penso che non parlo molto bene l'italiano, sì, è vero. Per me il cinese è facile, però l'italiano è difficile, più difficile. Per esempio la femminile e il maschile non mi piace, è difficile. So as you can see, like, they're just so different. Like, I just feel like with Italian, I can understand more Italian, but I definitely want to improve in other aspects of this language. It's not too late to, you know, improve on it, but it can be very interesting when you can easily compare, you know, the differences. Like with Chinese, I feel like I can read a lot, I can write a lot, speak a lot, listen to a lot, versus Italian, it's kind of, okay, I may be able to listen to some things, but I can't speak some things, or I can kind of read some things, but then I don't know the conjugation of that one verb. It's like, for me, Italian's more complex, even though they say Italian's supposed to be like easier than Chinese. So that is the interesting bit about learning different languages. And as you can see with Japanese, she is a baby. She's the baby of the family. I am going to improve in Japanese. At this point, I've only learned like the basic phrases, you know, konnichiwa, watashi wa izzy desu, hajimemashite, douzo yoroshiku, nihonjin de wa arimasen, watashi wa amerikajin desu, eigo ga wakarimasu, nihongo ga wakarimasen. That's what it's like with Japanese. It's like, okay, I could say a little something, but not enough to have big conversations. So I can maybe say, oh, the hat is yellow, or I really like this apple, but it's not enough sentences for me to really have deep conversations. Now that I've kind of explained my language history, let's go on down to my daily goals. I have a scripture above. I personally really like having scriptures incorporated in whatever I'm doing because it's always a reminder and a way to motivate me. This scripture is Isaiah 41:13. For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand, saying unto thee, fear not, I will help thee. And this scripture, I love it so much. I do, because it just reminds me that while I'm doing these languages, the Lord is going to help me. I don't have to worry about like trying to remember everything or trying to cram all the information in. He will help me. I don't have to fear, because there definitely have been moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening here? Am I ever going to be able to retain all this information? And it's like, fear not, because God's holding my right hand. So if he's holding my hand through it all, then I'm okay, you know? So this is a good reminder. You know, a lot of people put quotes, we put scriptures. Now you all can see the daily goals. So I like to have a to-do list for each language. So I have for Hanyu, Italiano, and Nihongo. Can you tell that I'm a little rusty with Japanese? I think so. I planned out about 4 tasks per language. So then I have like my HSK4 game, HSK4 flashcards, read short stories, and watch content for Chinese, which is the first language we'll be studying today. And I always kind of have a warm-up for each language. So like if you go to Italian, I have droplets, and if you go to Japanese, I have Duolingo. And I like to have different warm-ups for each one, because I could use Duolingo, but I don't really like that. I just like having it all separate. For Chinese, I am currently learning HSK4, but I am learning the old HSK4. When I started studying it, I didn't realize they had the new one, but I don't think that really matters because they do have more resources on the old HSK system, so I do prefer the old one over the new one. But I try to give myself enough things, but not too much, like enough where I feel satisfied by the end of the day. And I do not have any natives in my life. Like, I've never really spoken to a Japanese person. I haven't spoken to a Chinese person. There's been like no natives that involved in my life. So when it comes to speaking practice, I do just practice by myself. I speak to myself and just recite it in my head and try to think about what I'm gonna say, and even use the translator to correct myself if necessary. But yes, this is the study routine for today, so we're gonna get started on this. I'm really excited to like get back into these languages because they're like my babies. Like I said, I've missed them. They've been at daycare for so long, and it's time to get them out of daycare and, you know, maintain them myself again. I know I already showed this in one of my other videos, but I am using the HSK4 game. I like to call it HSK4 game because that's what it feels like. It feels like a little game you get to play when it comes to languages. I will have all the resources that I mentioned in this video down below in the description. We're gonna start this, and yeah, I'll update you all later. Playing the HSK4 games, I like to jump straight into some flashcards. Now, I know a lot of people love flashcards, and I'll say I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not against flashcards, but I only use flashcards when I feel like it is necessary. Personally, for me, I like to either use Quizlet or I like to find flashcards for that specific language, because you can go on the App Store and look up your language and they'll already have pre-made flashcards ready to go. So in this case, when it comes to HSK4, before, I do use an app specifically for like the HSK system because you'll find a lot of resources already made and I don't have to make new cards. But if I want to make cards, I'll use Quizlet. I know a lot of people use Anki, but I'm personally not the biggest fan of Anki. I have tried it. It's just not enjoyable for me. And when it comes to flashcards, I do have a moment where I'm heavily using them, but then I am okay with not using flashcards and finding other things that will keep me interested in learning the languages, because I personally think, you know, just using flashcards to learn a language is extremely boring. It is good with Chinese specifically because I do need to stay abreast of all the different characters. Recognition is so important when you are learning this language because the system is completely different than English and you need to memorize the characters. Like, there's no way around it. You have to memorize roughly about 2,000 to 3,000 characters because that's what a native knows in order to comfortably read things. And I personally don't get bored as long as I'm not overdoing it with the flashcards. The app that I use is Daily Chinese. I like this app too because it's not just centered around HSK. There are some apps that are just specifically for HSK, but Daily Chinese also incorporates like other topics that you may be interested in. And a lot of it is when you're learning a language, it is constantly keeping yourself interested and picking things that you like, because even if you're learning a lot, it gets to a certain point where it's like, okay, I've learned a lot, but now I want to pick something that's going to actually keep me engaged.
租
偏 浪漫 oh, what does that mean? 浪漫 oh yeah, I knew that. Romantic. 浪漫 态度 manner 态度 With Chinese, it can be very complex because I may know a character, for example, I may remember it, but then I don't know the definition. Or I may say the correct pronunciation based off of the opinion, but then maybe the tone is off. If I have gotten anything wrong, whether that is the character, tone, pronunciation, definition, I will immediately put it into the forgot category because it still isn't right if I don't remember the tone. So for example, I use the fourth tone when in reality only this part of the opinion is fourth tone and this part is a neutral. So it goes into forgot.
熟悉
There is a lot you do have to keep up with. You do have to keep up with the tones, you have to keep up with the characters, and like I said, there's no way you can read this. Like, you just have to memorize it. Compared to, you know, with English, you memorize the alphabet and then you can learn new words just by reading because now you are familiar with the pronunciation. But with Chinese, it's not really like that. You have to know the character's background in order to read whatever you want to read. Okay, it's time to now put those flashcards to some good use and actually start reading. I do incorporate a lot of reading with Chinese. Once again, a lot of it is trying to remember the characters. I think it's important to read in any language, but specifically with Chinese, I do tend to bend more towards reading because as long as I'm even reading, I get to maintain my pronunciation, I get to remember the characters, the tone, and learn new vocabulary words. So reading is personally my favorite thing, but sometimes when you're not advanced in a language yet, like I'm kind of in the in-between stage, I am trying to transition out of this like intermediate stage, you don't want to pile on too much. I know for me, when it comes to reading, I like to read short stories. So there's a specific website called HSK Reading, and they have it for beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and that's what I love about this website. So when you go to the website, you have HSK Reading, and they have a ton of different stories you get to read. I love the stories that they offer because they're very informative. Even if I'm reading about something that's not, you know, that interesting, at least I'm learning a lot of vocabulary words in a short amount of time because it is very different having to look up every single unknown word in a novel versus starting yourself off with like some short stories. Now of course when you get into the intermediate stories, they're a little bit longer, but I feel like I can easily digest them. You know, I'm not at the point where I want to read necessarily a whole novel, because once you read a whole novel, you have to look up all of the words you don't know, and that can be very discouraging when you realize you hardly understand what's going on in one sentence. The short stories are the way to go. Now you will see me use this drawing tablet. This drawing tablet was sent to me by Pablo, so thank you Pablo, but this video is not sponsored or anything. They specifically sent it to me for the art channel, which I will be doing a review of, but I genuinely love this drawing tablet. And of course you all have seen me use my iPad. I personally like to write while I'm reading. I will specifically write down characters that I don't know and write them over and over and over again. I know a lot of people will tell you that you don't really need to write, but me personally, I really like writing. I don't really want to be illiterate in one area, and I actually love the Chinese characters. Like, that's the best part about learning Chinese. And when you're writing things, it's good to pronounce the word over and over again. A lot of it is repetition, finding ways to remember this word. If you have to write it a million times, if you have to say it a million times, whatever you need to do to make sure the information is sticking. And writing is definitely one of the methods that I like to use, specifically with Chinese versus like Italian. It is a little bit different. And I'm gonna read I've Started Eating Healthy Food. This is HSK4 base, which I did read this one before. I'll usually read it once without writing anything to see how many words I don't know, and then see if it fits for me, because even if something says HSK4, HSK3, HSK2, so on and so forth, it may say that, but like, are you really ready for it? Because like I said, it is exhausting when you're having to look up pretty much every single word. But what I do like about this website is you can immediately click on a word and it will tell you the opinion and it will tell you the definition. So whenever you're finding resources, try to pick things that are going to be convenient, because it is an inconvenience having to look up every single character. You have to get the Chinese dictionary out when you can just easily click on the word and get the definition, get the pronunciation, and there you go. 健康饮食 饮食 健康饮食的小对话。小红，你知道吗？最近我开始注重健康饮食了。真的吗？那你都吃些什么？真的吗？那你都吃些什么？真的吗？那你都吃些什么？真的吗？那你都吃些什么？我尽量多吃蔬菜、水果，还有一些健康的蛋白质，比如鱼和鸡肉。听起来很不错啊！我也想吃的更健康，但不知道从哪里开始。When I am reading, I don't really try to focus so much on like speed. I know a lot of people focus on speed when they're trying to read, because I know, of course, even in your native language, you are taught to like read as fast as you possibly can. But I don't read like that fast, because I like to take my time while I'm reading. I try not to focus so much on speed. As long as I am pronouncing the word and memorizing the word, then that's enough for me. I do think when you're learning a language, speed is kind of out of the question. It's all about, taking your time and kind of being the tortoise in the race instead of the hare. The slow and steady ones are the ones winning. If you are just kind of glancing over these things, you will miss a lot of important details. I moved over here to the bed because some of these tasks I do kind of like to be in a different environment. I probably will go back to the desk, but I am going to move on to Italian. Now, you might have noticed on my to-do list, I am supposed to be watching content with Chinese. However, I usually save that like at the end of the day, or I try to incorporate it into my day-to-day life. So let's say, for example, I am cleaning, I'll usually put on a podcast or something in the background so then I can immerse myself in the language. Now, recently I haven't been doing that too much, but I know before, like, I used to listen to the languages all the time. I guess my problem sometimes, you know, with immersing yourself in the language, it can feel like if you're not immersing yourself in the language, then, you know, something's wrong with you. You're not staying on top of your language studies. But I think it is healthy to also take breaks. You know, you don't want to immerse yourself into the language to the point of absurdity. I know everyone's like, be obsessed with this language, and don't get me wrong, we love studying, but like, we should not be obsessed with a language like that. We shouldn't have obsessions as Christians. I mean, I think the only one we're supposed to be obsessed with is Jesus, but like, there just shouldn't be all this unnecessary conflict in your day-to-day life. And I know I would sometimes feel bad for not having languages in the background. It's like, wait, why do I feel bad? You know, it's not a bad thing, you know, to just want peace and quiet. If I can, I like to incorporate it when I kind of have free time, but I'm doing other things. But at the same time, make sure you have boundaries set in place so you don't feel, you know, guilty if you don't constantly have your headphones on all the time. For my warm-up app with Italian, I'm going to use droplets. I know everyone talks about drops, but I don't feel like enough people talk about droplets, because here's the thing. With drop, it is free, but you have a limitation set in place with drops. Like, you only have, I think, 5 minutes a day. Droplets is the kid version for drops, but I'm pretty sure they all share the same information. They should have gave everyone unlimited time. With droplets, they give everyone the option to turn off like that little 5-minute limitation, and you can put unlimited on, and that's what I love about droplets. So you all get onto droplets. Drops. Maybe I should do clothes. Let's do clothes. Il cappotto. Il cappotto. Anyone like the way that sounds? Like, which is Italian, I do love the pronunciation. Like, it's just so pretty. Okay, so I studied, or, you know, did my little warm-up for about like 2 minutes. I don't even think it was really that long. I'm sorry. I was just really in the mood to get into like story time. So yeah, the story I'm going to be reading today is 𝐸𝓂𝒂𝒃𝓁. I love 𝐸𝓂𝒂𝒃𝓁 because it is hands down my favorite like children's story that is on this website. But you can go on this website and they have like simple children's stories. So if you are going to read in a language, it's best to read children's stories or even short stories. The best thing about short stories, I do like them, but they can be less entertaining. However, usually you are learning things that are more relevant, because I am going to be honest, some of the things you are even learning in 𝐸𝓂𝒂𝒃𝓁 aren't relevant, or there's sentences that you won't even be using. But it is more entertaining, because even with 𝐸𝓂𝒂𝒃𝓁, they have a little video that I get to watch and follow along with, and it's like, it's just really enjoyable. I have read this like multiple times, so I am still pretty familiar with it. I don't think I have forgotten everything, but I'm more so kind of reviewing it again. But I just love it. I love it so much. That's like the beauty of language learning. You get to incorporate things that you actually enjoy, and you get to pick out the resources. Oh, it's so nice.
In un paese piccolo e normale. Non è né alto né basso. Non è né magro né grasso. Non è né intelligente né stupido. Il cielo sta cadendo! Il cielo sta cadendo! Davvero? E come lo sai? Chiede la gallina Pina.
L'ho visto su internet.
Dice il polletto Carletto. Il cielo sta cadendo! Il cielo sta cadendo! Davvero? E come lo sapete? Chiede la paperella Lella. L'ho visto su internet. E così il polletto Carletto, la gallina Pina e la paperella Lella corrono insieme.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna narrate for you 𝐸𝓂𝒂𝒃𝓁. Lasciate che vi racconti la storia di un pollo. Una mattina, del tutto normale, il porletto Carletto sta facendo colazione in cucina. Mangia toast con il burro e beve il caffè con la panna. Legge notizie su internet e a un certo punto vede una storia spaventosa con un titolo spaventoso. Il cielo sta cadendo. Si spaventa così tanto che fa cadere il toast dentro il caffè. Plop! Il cielo sta cadendo! Il cielo sta cadendo! Grida il porletto Carletto. Devo dirlo a tutti. So dramatic, but like it's a very dramatic story. Okay, I love the theatrics of it all. Okay, let's continue reading this story. The lighting looks so weird, but that's okay. That's okay. I finished reading Il Porletto Carletto, but I am going to now show you all how I utilize YouTube when it comes to content. YouTube is your best friend for literally so many things. I mean, if you're not using YouTube to learn your languages, what are you doing? You know? So I use YouTube to not only, of course, learn things from like specific teachers, because teachers will upload like lessons that you can follow on YouTube, but I also use it to keep up to date with Italian content specifically. So at the moment I am currently in love with Bluey. I absolutely love Bluey, like in any language, it doesn't matter what language it is, I love Bluey regardless. I want to showcase one of my favorite Chrome extensions that I like to use. One of my favorite Chrome extensions is Language Reactor. I love Language Reactor because they firstly have so many languages, but a lot of the times when you are on YouTube, they don't have both of the subtitles. And with Language Reactor, all you have to do is go to your settings, turn on closed captions, pick Italian or pick whatever language you prefer, and then Language Reactor will eventually give you both subtitles, which is what I love about this platform. I have my Italian notebook right here with me. Now, I don't take notes on everything. I only take notes on the things that I feel like I want to refer back to. And sometimes taking notes can be a little iffy because, let's be honest, think about how many times you really refer back to your notes. I know for me, like, I have written a lot already. Like, if I just show you all, like, you all can see so many notes. I hope you can see it. I hope the camera's picking it up, but there's notes like in here. I've clearly written in it. I haven't looked back at these notes, but sometimes writing notes can just help solidify everything. I know I may not necessarily refer back to these all the time. Usually once I kind of write it within that first week, I'll review it, and then after that I think it's kind of the end. A lot of it is giving yourself options. If you really like taking notes and you go back to look at them all the time, that's fine, but most of the time a lot of my notes are also connected to a specific video. So sometimes what I'll do is I won't even necessarily look at my notes, I'll just go back to the video, and I'm gonna be taking notes on Bluey, and I won't take notes on the whole video. That was definitely a mistake I made back in the day. I would try to like write out the whole video. No, sweetie. You just write down your favorite sentences so you can review them over and over again. So that's essentially what I do. I'm gonna write down my favorite sentences and then recite them. So then once again, it's just repetition.
Attenzione a dove metti le cose. Bingo infila I libri in ordine dopo averli letti.
Alright, Busy Bees, we are back. I took a little break because it's obviously nighttime, but it's time to get back into the languages. So the last language we have to tackle is Japanese. I'm gonna do Duolingo as a way to kind of warm up, but I'm also going to review some hiragana and katakana because I haven't reviewed it in such a long time. I used to practice it all the time. I don't think I'm gonna be doing any writing today. I'm just gonna go on Duolingo's app, and I believe they have a feature where you can review and just catch up on. There's like some writing, like some, but you're just like kind of writing it on your phone. And then after I finish doing hiragana and katakana, I have to do a little bit of a Japanese lesson. There are free Japanese lessons on YouTube, and they go by Japan Society. Those are probably the first ones I have liked. I tried looking up some lessons, and that's what I usually do on YouTube. The first thing I'll do is try to find like free lessons on YouTube, and so I did find one with Japanese, and that one's personally my favorite. I like the way she teaches it, so I'll probably go back and review the ones that I've done in the past just so I can refresh and get used to old information first, then we tackle new information. You gotta mix the old with the new. Yasashi, 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 karu, kare, kare, Nihon, oishii, oishii, akarui, akarui, akarui.
その人は優しいです。
その人は優しいです。
この人とその人、この人とその人、この人とその人、この人とその人。
2、1、3、2、3。Okay, study buddy, that is the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed today's study vlog. Let me know if you want more of these videos because I definitely love studying languages and I love sharing this passion with you all. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!